Hello there everybody, welcome to the PRINCE2 webinar on the added value of the PRINCE2 methodology. I hope that you can all receive me loud and clear when I'm speaking, and if there is anything during the webinar on technical elements or any other things that you would like to share with us, please.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Please, if you have any questions, please use the box where you can write down your answer. At the end of the webinar, I will try to answer all your questions. All right, PRINCE2. PRINCE2 is an acronym for Projects in Controlled Environments. And so, what is it? It actually is a methodology for project management which was originated in the 70s as a methodology for the English government and specifically the IT projects. During that period of time, the English government used it for their own IT projects, and later on they wanted to enhance their procurement projects for the English government, and so they really needed to develop the whole PRINCE methodology as a methodology that can be used for more than only just IT environments. So that actually led to the extension of PRINCE2. With that extension, PRINCE2 actually became a methodology that can be used for all sorts of projects in all sorts of environment. It actually got really popular when it just got abroad from England and landed in Europe, and really fast it just spread out throughout Europe and later on to the rest of the world, and by now it is a methodology which is the standard de facto in methodology, in project management methodologies. So PRINCE2 today is acknowledged as a methodology that applies to the requirements of organizations to have a common approach and definition and control and delivery of projects in general. In that, it just complies to the needs of organizations, and we have to make things clear. It does not particularly meet the needs of individuals, like project managers or project associates, in the way how to do things. PRINCE2 is process-based, which actually means that it recommends us to go through the different steps in order to get control. Well, hence the acronym PRINCE, Projects in Controlled Environment. But before we get into the methodology, let's first look at why we have projects in any way. Well, I personally believe that the first thing, the reason why we have project is that we made a decision to have a project or not. The decision to make something a project, of course, is based on some elements, and the most recognized elements that justifies project management or working in projects is, of course, that we would like to introduce change in organizations, or we need to organize in a temporary organization form to get skilled and a skilled team that is able to work together towards a desired result. Because we gather, most likely, individuals with different skills, we could say that we need to have a different structure of managing a group of people that need to work together, but do have different functions in the organization where the project takes place in. Of course, there's another specific reason. We most likely make the decision to start a project because we need to do something that we haven't done before. We need to do something pretty unique. And because it is something unique, we might not even know what the best solution is for a problem or a need. So we need to develop a solution for that. And maybe we do not know the result that we will end up. Or maybe we might not even know the development path towards that result. So that requires a different form of management because it's such a unique environment and a unique assignment. Now, even if that's not the problem or not the case, then we still justify projects and project management because the path towards a final result in a project is a path full of uncertainties. We just don't know what can happen along the way. Maybe the business needs changes. Maybe during the project we will get new information or we get new insights. And so we need to adjust maybe the quality of our product or the functionalities of what we're trying to deliver, or maybe we just need to be more flexible with the environment that is surrounding us. So we have different reasons why we would choose projects to get a predefined result. So why do we need a methodology for that? Well, that's where PRINCE2 comes in, and that's where PRINCE2 actually gets his, well, it's famous, almost star status from, because it actually tells us, it gives us direction, it will help us on how to prepare, how to define, how to execute, how to control and monitor, and how to deliver products in project environments. It guides us through the different elements that we need to pay attention to in general. And it tells us to just go through the different steps, make our choices along that path, and it all comes down to controlling the project environment. So PRINCE2 is not the only methodology that foresees in a, let's say, process approach in order to structure your projects. Of course, maybe you know other methodologies. I'm referring to the PMI methodology, which is a transatlantic approach to projects. It is also process-based, and it tells us some attention areas, and it even tells us some techniques. Maybe you ever heard about IPMA, International Project Management Association, which emphasize a little bit more on the different skills from the individual. So it gives us more answer on how to do it instead of the sequences of things. And then, of course, for the more technical skilled project associates or project managers, we have the different agile methodologies. PRINCE2 can be used in all sizes and all sorts of projects. It is very famous in IT, but these days, and specifically here in Europe, I can see that it's getting more famous even in construction environments, and even in human resource projects, or just trying to implement complete changes of the different processes in organizations. And why do we use a methodology? Well, the justification to use methodologies like PRINCE2 or all the others is that we have a common approach. Everybody within that project should know what steps we're going through and how to actually control those different steps. Now, if we would look into PRINCE2, specifically the structure of PRINCE2, first I need to give you some information about the intellectual property of the methodology. PRINCE2 as a methodology is owned by the English government, and it was developed by the English government. Although a year ago, the English government decided to share its intellectual property with another party. And so, since basically 2014, the intellectual property of PRINCE2 belongs to a... Now, all publications and everything, like all the figures and the sheets that are available from the PRINCE2 methodology are copyright protected. So everything that is published should always be referred to PRINCE2 with the right copyright statements. So here you can see the development part. It all started with as a PRINCE2. It was originated during the 70s, and in the 80s it was by the Computer Communication and Telecom Agency called PRINCE, only for IT. Later on, that same organization made it a more generic methodology, and so it became PRINCE2. And then the Office of Government Commerce, the English government, updated it constantly because they would like to profile PRINCE2 as a best practice. And if you preach best practice, you should once in a while just look at your own methodology and see what things need to be refined, what things work, what things didn't work, and just update your things. And the last time that the PRINCE2 methodology was updated was in 2009. And so, yeah, within a few years, most likely we will see a new update. But then again, it will not be changing completely. There will not be a PRINCE2 or PRINCE3 methodology, because that would mean that we're really doing something wrong these days. And I can tell you that is not the case. Now, just let's take a look at the benefits of PRINCE2 in general. If we look at the benefits of PRINCE2, as I said, PRINCE2 belongs to the suite of best practices. So from the same area where PRINCE2 is developed, other best practice methodologies are developed as well. So think about the ITIL service management methodology. Think about the methodology management of risk, or managing successful programs, or directing successful projects. And now, these days, even the different agile methodologies are profiled as best practices. There is a specific benefit on PRINCE2, and that is that PRINCE2 can be used by on any type of project. So regardless of scale or complexity of a project, you can use PRINCE2. The only thing is that if you have a very small, tiny, controlled environment and you still need to use PRINCE2 within that environment, you will need to make choices. And PRINCE2 refers to those choices as tailoring the methodology towards the project environment. PRINCE2 as a methodology is widely recognized. I mean, these days we are training all over the world, and in Europe it's really common that everybody knows at least about the methodology. And I know that in Asia, and I know that throughout most parts of the world, PRINCE2 is widely recognized, and everybody with the certification of the methodology is widely recognized as a PRINCE2 project manager. So why is that? Well, PRINCE2 is the only methodology that defines project responsibilities to every level within a project environment. So we recognize in the complete project environment 4 levels. So we acknowledge that there is a corporate management, or maybe there is a program management or portfolio management. And we recognize that we need to set up communication towards those levels. While within our project management team, we acknowledge a project board. And PRINCE2 defines for each role within that project board tasks and responsibilities up to a level that there can be no misunderstanding on who's responsible for what. Now, if we go to another level, which is managing, is that a project manager needs to have some predefined tasks and responsibilities as well. And even on a lower level, PRINCE2 recommends the delivery, the level where actual specialists are engineering towards the different deliveries of a project. So in all those levels, PRINCE2 actually recognizes or acknowledges different roles, and for each role it writes down a list of tasks and responsibilities. So with that, in PRINCE2 environments, there can be no misunderstanding who is responsible for what action. So that actually is really a large benefit And I can assure you that it really helps project managers in setting up and defining their project management team. Another really big thing in PRINCE2, which we recognize as a benefit, is that PRINCE2 has a principle that says that it is product focused and specifically on the quality on the different deliverables. PRINCE2 says that a product is the result of an activity. So we should focus on the result in order to identify what we need to do to get that result. And we will put that result and define it on quality level based on the level that it needs to represent in order to solve a problem or fulfill a need within a customer's organization. So instead of thinking what needs to be done within a certain period of time, when in those matters quality is most likely to go down if we get under pressure, time pressure, PRINCE2 says no, we need to look what we really need. Maybe we can make some prioritizing those requirements, but at least there's a minimal requirement so that the result of the project is fulfilling a need or it solves a problem to an organization. And PRINCE2, in everything they do, is just focusing on results, on quality level. Another thing that PRINCE2 has in it is the acknowledgement of different levels of plans. We have, in a normal project, let's say at least 3 levels of plans, because we have 3 levels of involvement in those projects. So if we take the project board is responsible for the decisions, the authorization activities within a project environment. So in order to enable them to make those decisions, they need to have a plan as a benchmark to see the progress of the project in general. So PRINCE2 acknowledges that a project plan is there for the board so that they can assess the progress of the total project opposite of that plan. Another level of plans are specifically for the project manager. A project manager within a PRINCE2 context is facilitated by stage. So that means that a project manager needs to decorate that stage. He needs to plan it. He needs to know specifically what products need what, how much time and how much other resources to get those deliverables done within that stage. So the project manager actually needs a stage plan to assess his own progress so he can report that to a board based on that plan. And while the project plan is a high-level plan, the stage plan has all the necessary details for a project manager so that he or she is able to manage that period of time. Now another level that PRINCE2 recommends in projects are the team plans. The team plans are not predefined on how they should look in their planning structure, but most likely it will be an activity planning, because once we know what parts we need to engineer to get our final output, a team manager that actually accepts that assignment should be able to make a plan for the different activities performed by the team members that are responsible for the delivery of that product. So within that, we have different levels of plan, and PRINCE2 recommends us to make sure that the details of the different levels of plan are in line with the need of details for that plan. And what I'm saying with that is that the board should not be informed on too much details, and a project manager should not be informed on activity levels, while a team manager should just be able to make his own team plan for the delivery of the different products. PRINCE2 uses management by exception. The opposite of management by exception, the other way of managing project, is management by by objective. The difference between the two is the involvement of the higher level of management in a project, the project board. When we perform management by objective, we will involve the board in each step that we do within the project. Organize meetings, talk about progress, and then set up the new targets for the new period of time. In management by exception, we have a different approach. We're trying to use the available time of senior management to an optimum. We should not waste time by talking about progress. We should make the gatherings that we have with our board functional. Decisions are there to be made. And when there are no decisions to be made, but it's just about progress, we can do that with reports. PRINCE2 methodologies and PRINCE2 projects are business case driven. It is basically a very simple statement to say, if you invest in money or effort in an initiative, there should be a good reason to do so. So before you are actually starting investing in a project environment, you should ask yourself, why are we doing this? And if you cannot find a good reason, a smart reason, a measurable reason why investing in an initiative, you might consider not to invest in it. PRINCE2 basically says that a project is a temporary environment with the purpose of the delivery of one or more business products according to an agreed business case. So with that saying, it says that everything that is delivered by a project should be of an added value to the organization where the project takes place in. And if there is no added value to the total investment or the total effort that we do, we shouldn't do it. Next to that, that business case is really a key element in our projects. Why? Because we are constantly constantly in need of making decisions, and we should have something to look at in order to make the proper decision. Well, the best thing to look at if you need to make a decision is where would you like to go and where would you like to end on the end of the story, and does it make sense to proceed or to change, or did we do enough efforts to counter the different risks involved? And so that document that we use for that is a business case. PRINCE2 has a very strong structure of reports, although it is, as it says, not too much. It has a total of 26 templates, and not all templates are reports. But we do have some specific templates that gives us reports on the status of the project on the different times. I think that the total templates that PRINCE2 offers us are very helpful. It is one of the success factors of the methodology that we have predefined documents in template form, so that we can give the project managers or the project associates some guidance on the information that is needed so that other levels can take actions or take decisions based on those reports or documents. PRINCE2 also emphasizes on the stakeholders of a project. We all know that every project has a certain amount of stakeholders. Now they can be subject of your project, so they are people, individuals or groups within your project, but of course they also hover around your project. And PRINCE2 really gives us guidance on mapping those environments and make sure that we do an analysis on the relations that we have with those stakeholders within or surrounding our project. Make a decision on the desired relation that we would like with them, and then set up a communication strategy on how to get that desired relation with our stakeholders. One of the most common benefits of PRINCE2 is, of course, the common language. We have specific names for the different processes. We have specific names for the different reports. We have names for the different roles. And that language altogether is a language that we use international. So we are not bounded by language or borders anymore, because worldwide, if we use PRINCE2 as a methodology, we all know what it means if we are initiating a project. That common language actually is a very, very important benefit of the methodology in general. As said, PRINCE2 is process-based, and the processes which contain a trigger which sets up different activities and have a predefined output, all those processes are defined pre-project and project processes. So we are actually looking before we start with a project, and then we work through the result, and as a last process we have the closure of a project. Later on we will see what are the processes that we have. And then one other benefit of the methodology in general is that it is supported by accredited training organization or accredited consultant organizations. PRINCE2 project managers can actually just always get support, training, or just information from all the ATOs and the ACOs worldwide on PRINCE2 methodologies. So PRINCE2 really is a lot. It tells us a lot of things, it gives us a lot of solutions, but it's limited. And so there are some things that PRINCE2 does not provide to us. And one of those things are the specialist aspects. It is not about IT. It is not about construction. It is generic. So yeah, we made it generic. So that's, you can find that back in there. We do not give the different processes specific names. Now we just called it delivery stage 1 or delivery stage 2. Of course we can give it a name, but we do not talk about specialist environments. We do not also mention detailed techniques. PRINCE2 tells us that things need to be done, not how. So of course PRINCE2 in one of the themes will tell us that we need to assess progress, but then it will not tell us how. So we stay away from the detailed techniques on progress, on risk, on change, and only gives us guidance on how we could approach it. And then again, it does not say anything about, let's say, the soft skills that of course we all know that project managers need to have, need to control, like leadership elements. Next to that, PRINCE2 is not a planning tool, software, descriptive, bureaucratic. Anywhere that people think that PRINCE2 might not be suitable for their project environment, that most likely is that they might not be informed on a well enough level on the use of PRINCE2. But then again, PRINCE2 is not a guarantee for success as well, because we will need to deal with people in our project, and that takes other skills than just the knowledge of a process model. PRINCE2 as a methodology has 3 levels of certification. Of course we have the foundation, which is a knowledge-based training, most likely 3 days, where you get acquainted with the different processes, with the different themes, with the principles on the methodology. You get to know the language and the different names of the different documents that are related to PRINCE2 as a methodology. And you do a, let's say, 1-hour multiple choice exam in order to get a foundation certificate. Another level is the practitioner level. The PRINCE2 Practitioner is more for the PRINCE2 project managers, and it is more about applying the methodology in the context of projects. So then we are actually having 3 or 4 days of training, and we are actually using everything that we learned in the foundation and apply the methodology. It's a more complex and a more extended level, and so the exam, a multiple choice exam as well, but it's a complex multiple choice exam, and you will be sweating all around for 2.5 hours in order to get the right amount of answers to get your practitioner certificate. Now, another relatively new level is the PRINCE2 Professional. The PRINCE2 Professional is more like an assessment level, where experienced PRINCE2 project managers can let them be subject to assessment by independent assessors on their skills in applying PRINCE2 in an artificial environment. That complete certification, that assessment, will take at least 3 days, and when you pass that, you can call yourself a certified PRINCE2 professional. Now, let's go into the structure of the methodology in general. PRINCE2, as you can see on the bottom of that, well, how do you call that, a cake? Well, let's call it a cake. Look at the bottom of the cake. You can see PRINCE2 principles. PRINCE2 since 2009 acknowledges principles where environments need to comply to in order to call their environment a PRINCE2 project environment. Before we acknowledge the basic principles of the methodology, everybody could use their project environments PRINCE2, and specifically from some commercial supplier environments, they would actually just tell everybody how professional that organization was, and that everybody was PRINCE2 certified, and that they did everything except using the PRINCE2 methodology. So in order to tackle that, we need to have clearance on when can we say that a project is run with the PRINCE2 methodology, and when can we say it's not. Well, we will find them back in the PRINCE2 principles, and in a few moments we will look into an overview of the principles. The second layer on that cake are the PRINCE2 themes, and they are just themes, attention areas. We will meet those areas throughout the whole life cycle of our project in one way or the other. We have to deal with it one way or the other. And PRINCE2 acknowledges those areas and say, well, listen, there is a reason why we mention it, and this is a procedure that we recommend following in order to control that element. And as you can see, there are 7 themes, like the business case, organization, quality plans, risk, change, and progress. Those principles and those themes will take place within the PRINCE2 processes, and as you can see, those are the core of the cake. PRINCE2 acknowledges 7 processes, 7 themes, and 7 principles. And specifically the themes and the processes are subject to tailoring. You need to adjust everything that PRINCE2 expresses in their publications and their trainings so that the methodology fits your project environment. So we are referring to that as tailoring the methodology to the project environment. Now let's just take a closer look. Here you can see an overview of the principles of PRINCE2. And I will just go through them, not too firm, but at least you will have an idea where they're based on. PRINCE2, on top, continued business justification. And on the right side you can see what it means. Although continued business justification is not expressed completely on the right side. It actually means that once you have a justification to invest in a project, it doesn't mean that during the project that justification will still be there. Maybe the strategics of the organization where the project takes place in is changing. Maybe the assigned resources might be reprioritized, might not be available anymore. So maybe we encounter some technical difficulties. We need to go through the different changes during our project. And so we need to constantly benchmark if the justification for the investment and the effort that takes place within the project during the project is still viable. If there is still a justification to continue with the investment and the effort. So in other words, PRINCE2 recommends the dynamic use of the document business case. The second one is learning from experience. Now, might be an open door, but you would be surprised how many people just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and are surprised that they get the same outcome. PRINCE2 just really urges us to learn from previous experiences, not only in the environment where we work, but we should just search the world, if necessary, to learn from maybe other projects. Learning from experience is a very specific principle within the methodology. Defined roles and responsibilities, that's something that I already expressed. It is the only methodology that defines almost all necessary roles with specific responsibilities and tasks. There can be no misunderstanding who's responsible in the project if we use the defined roles and responsibility for that. PRINCE2 projects are managed by stage, and at least we need to have 2 stages. And those 2 stages can be translated in thinking before we do. And that translates in 2 stages, which is called initiation and the rest. Initiation and delivery. Thinking, doing. Although some environments might urge us to cut the period for the delivery in different stages. Maybe we have a design stage, maybe we need to build, maybe we need to test and then afterwards implement. And when I'm referring to stages, I'm referring to management stages. At the end of each stage, so with every stage boundary, we will involve the board and show them where we are, opposite of where we thought we would be, where we will be heading for, and we will seek approval for the next period or the next stage. Every time when we are agreeing with the board on a plan, let's say a stage plan, we also need to agree on permissible deviations on the planning or the budget or the required quality. If we wouldn't have any permissible deviations like tolerances in budget, a plus-minus factor in the budget that is becoming available for what we do, we didn't need a manager, if you understand what I mean. So we always need to have a buffer on time, on quality, or in budget itself. And if we agreed on the permissible deviations, then it means that the board only needs to act when we cannot perform within those agreed tolerances. Now that principle is called management by exception. You only give, there is only a need for involvement from the project board if a project manager seeks that involvement. PRINCE2 is focused on products. That comes back even in our planning technique, product-based planning. We're just looking at the quality of the different products because we acknowledge that the quality of what we deliver at the end of a project is necessary for a user environment to create desired outcomes and for the business to create benefits. So we focus on the results and then go back. And then the last one, and not the least, tailored to suit project environments. We need to make choices. You cannot use the methodology one-on-one on every project. That will make it bureaucratic. That will make it a very slow, heavy project. So in order to make sure that the methodology is used to support your project, instead of that you get a, let's say, a follower of the methodology, we need to tailor the methodology in itself. So we need to stick to these 7 principles in order to call ourselves a PRINCE2 environment. And these principles cannot be tailored in themselves. What we can make choices, what we can tailor are the different themes. So PRINCE2 recommends 7 themes. One of them is the business case. The business case is not, business case is a document that enables the board to actually be accountable for everything that happens in it. The board takes the decisions for investments to proceed or to close a project. And so they should always take the information in a business case in their decisions. The business case represents the justification for the investment or the effort in a project. And we should constantly work on that business case and update it with the actuals to ensure that with every step that we do, there is still a justification why we do it. The theme organization just says something about our project team's structure and the different tasks, responsibilities, and sometimes even accountabilities. That theme is not a static team as well. You do not organize a project management team just once in a project. Of course, depending on the complexity and scale, you need to critically look at your organization, specifically people assigned to the different tasks, and see if it's still in line with the different work that needs to be done. So the theme organization is a dynamic thing, a dynamic theme in our projects. So PRINCE2 tells us that at least with every stage boundary, we critically should assess if we still have the right project management team, and if not, we need to adjust that. The theme quality, that is actually defining the path towards a final project product that is fit for the purpose of users. So there is an overlap in the theme of plans and in the theme of quality. Because the plans are the backbone of the project, and the plans tells us how we think we will get to a predefined product that meets the quality requirements so that the users can actually create their desired outcomes, and that business can make their benefits with that. If we talk about the theme plans, it's not only the levels that we see in those themes, but also the path towards a plan. And of course, it will tell us about the technique of product-based planning. Now, the risk theme is actually extracted from the methodology management of risk. And it's just telling us that we have to deal with uncertainties. The definition of a risk in PRINCE2 is a possible future event or events that, if it occurs, will have effect on project's objectives. And those effects can be positive or negative. When it's negative, it's a threat. When it's positive, it's an opportunity. But it doesn't matter, we still need to pay attention to it, because not every opportunity is wishful to do so, to take that. If you have an opportunity for an early delivery, you really need to assess if that is a good idea to do so, because not all industry appreciate it when you deliver earlier than agreed. The team change, well, I think that everybody who ever worked in projects before knows that we will counter change. I have never in my life had a project that did not have any change or change request, even not during the different stages. So we need to set up a certain procedure to control the change within our project. And so that's why PRINCE2 acknowledges change as a theme. And then, of course, we have progress. And progress as a theme just tells us about controlling progress in general. So we do that by setting up the different stages, because if we know that we have a lot of risks or we counter a lot of changes, we should actually just plan our horizon a little smaller. So we have smaller horizons, and so that we can actually measure how we are doing during our project. Next to that, we have a lot of other mechanisms where we can control progress in general. And they are all mentioned in the theme of progress within the methodology. And here on the slide in front of you, you can see the process model, and if you take a closer look into it, you can see that we involve the major levels in a project organization. On top we can see corporate or program management, and as you can see we have an interface with it, a communication interface. Most likely the project mandate will come from that level, and the formal communication to corporate and program management is performed by the project board. And you can see that the project board is represented in the level of direction. And if you take a closer look, you can see that directing a project is overlapping most other processes, and the directing a project process is the domain of the board. Now the project manager has his own domain. It's called management. And then there's just one process which is overlapping them, that's starting up a project. That overlaps directing and managing, and I will tell you a little bit more later on about that. And then you can see the lower level, actually the most important level in projects, which is the delivery level, managing product delivery. Now, I will go through and outline through the different processes and show you why PRINCE2 mentioned them as important. Let's start with starting up a project. Starting up a project is a pre-project process. There is not yet a project, but we need to prepare. We need to find out what the customer actually really wants, what he means instead of what he says. We need to make an inventory on the available information, and if we do not have everything available so that we can do a plan, for instance, then we need to get that information. We need to ensure that the customer thought about the investment and that there is a justification to invest. All sorts of elements that come back in starting up a project. The result of our efforts during starting up a project is called a project brief. It is a proposal to our customer, the project board or the executive, by saying, look, I gathered all the information and I structured all your information provided, and so is this exactly what you mean? And if so, then I have a plan for the first period, the first stage of the project. So could you please look into it and make sure that all claimed resources will be available for the next period of time. So the project manager will go to the board with a request to initiate a project, and that actually triggers the process of the board members in directing a project. They will need to assess if the project manager actually really understands their assignment, and that there is a reasonable plan for the creation of a project initiation documentation, or a PID, and that period of time to prepare or define the project is realistic opposite of the total available time for the result. And if so, in directing a project, they will authorize the initiation of a project. And during that initiation, then a project manager will work out that project brief. He will meet more stakeholders. He will think about how to deal with different themes. Let's say risk, let's say quality, configuration and change, communication and stakeholders engagement. And the project manager will set up different strategies that express how the project will deal with all those attention areas. And of course the project plan needs to be produced. A project plan produced where in high-level terms the different steps, the different period of time and the necessary resources, and that is time and budget and people, will be subject to that project plan. And based on the output of that project plan, a project manager should be able to update a business case and structure that business case and forms a PID so that the board can actually see what is going to be produced, how it's being done, with whom, for how much, and in what period of time, and how we will deal with the different elements. Now, if the board agrees on that, then that PID will become a contract between the board as customer and the project manager as a supplier. And the baseline of that PID will be our guidance throughout the whole project. Once the PID is approved, a project manager can actually start with executing the different stage plans. And for that, we have a different process, which is called controlling the stage. It defines the interface between the project manager and the different specialist teams and the agreement on the job that needs to be completed in a certain period of times. And the project manager is that interface between the delivery level and the project itself. Controlling a stage also defines the way to deal with different issues and risks, and depending on the mandate that a project manager has, deal with it or involve the board, use management by exception, and escalate the different issues or risk to the board to seek guidance or decisions on that. At the end of each stage, we will need to seek approval for the next stage. So we need to do some homework, and that homework is defined in managing the stage boundary. The homework that we need to do is that we need to plan the next period for the project, evaluate the previous stage, and then based on that next stage plan and the evaluation of the stage that we are closing, we need to see if our project plan is still valid or needs updated, or maybe some other documents like a business case needs to be updated. And so we are providing the board with sufficient information so that they can make the decision to proceed or not. So the project manager is an interface between the delivery level, the technical part where 85% of projects take place. PRINCE2 does not describe specialists how to perform in their work. We just set up communication. Of course, we would like to have a, let's say, an agreement with the teams for the delivery of the different products. And that agreement that we have with the teams are called work packages. And those work packages will need to be accepted by the specialists so that the team plan start working on it, test it, and once the job is done, deliver a completed work package back to a project manager. So managing stage boundary, controlling a stage, and managing product delivery are iterative and depending on the amount of stages in a PRINCE2 environment. And as last process, we have closing a project. And PRINCE2 describes in that process an authentic way of closing a project environment. An authentic closure means verifying that the project did what it promised that it should do, set up communication to the user environment or the maintenance environment, evaluate the previous period, so the complete project environment, but more specific, update the business case and provide the customer environment with information about the expected benefits after the project, when they should arise, how they should be measured, on what moment, and who's most suitable for that. So PRINCE2 is also looking a little bit beyond the project environment. So we have 7 processes. Altogether, 7 principles, 7 themes, and 7 processes. If we talk about tailoring PRINCE2, we recommend that organizations embed the methodology as part of their processes. Because on organization level, if we make the right choices on the methodology, then it's more easy to tailor the methodology on the different initiatives in that same environment. So we make a difference between embedding and tailoring PRINCE2, and we use different guidances in that. So PRINCE2 as a methodology has its added value in that it provides us with a lot of things and enable us to control our project. It might stay away from the way we do things, but at least we know with the use of PRINCE2 that we do the right projects. I can tell you, that pays off. So thank you for this webinar. I hope that I was able to express a little bit about the methodology and express a little bit about the added value in using PRINCE2. And if you need any more information on details, feel free and send an email to KnowledgeHut. And if there's some specific questions about content later on, then please send that mail and I will make sure to answer them. And if you have questions right now, please type them in the question box and then I will answer them or try to answer them as well. So for now, thank you very much.